ทิศทางและแนวทางดำเนินการของอุตสาหกรรมเหล็กไปสู่ยุค Zero Carbon Society นะคะโดย Mr.Sebastian Langendorf ค่ะ Founder and CEO Meranti นะคะขอเรียนเชิญ Mr.Sebastian Langendorf up on the stage please welcome
sunset. Wind, growth. Team members of the Iron Steel Institute in Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I would like to start with saying thank you for giving me, Meranti Steel, the opportunity to present our project. And perhaps we start with a happy anniversary to the Iron Steel Institute. 25 years is a milestone, and I wish you all the best for the next 25 years. And with your permission, we would like to be part of the next 25 years that we get into the project that we are planning and that we're working. So perhaps a very brief background on Meranti Steel. Very briefly, the market case for steel in Thailand is green steel, and we've heard a lot of fantastic presentations on it, so I will keep that short. Then the Meranti green steel vision, challenges, and the operation. I think the focus will be on the operational model, because at the end of the day, I think that the question is how can we actually do something like green steel. Very briefly on the background. So this is our factory in Myanmar. So Meranti Steel was incorporated in 2016, headquartered in Singapore. We have a joint venture with KFE Steel and Japanese trading companies for coated steel in Myanmar, in the Kilowatt Economic Zone. I think it's fair to say it's one of the most modern manufacturing plants in Myanmar. Capacity in phase 1 is 180,000 tons, in phase 2, 360,000 tons. We have started with production on CPL February 2020. And this was our first project. Now, Meranti Steel's second project is the green steel plant in Thailand. We looked at different countries before starting to actually dig deeper and go into planning. So we looked at Indonesia, we looked at Thailand, we looked at Vietnam. We felt Thailand is the right place. Vietnam had a lot of investment into steel. So we see there a certain total capacity. In the short term, there's a consolidation. Indonesia was also very interesting. We thought Thailand was actually a country where we saw a strong backbone in terms of downstream industry, a strong infrastructure for steel making, and of course existing steel companies and steel players. We also saw, I will talk about this a bit later, on grid, national grid, with more than 50 gigawatts in terms of electricity generation and consumption in Thailand. So these were factors that made us decide that we will focus on Thailand. So if we look at the steel demand in ASEAN, and I think focus on steel consumption and steel production in ASEAN is expected to double by 2035 or more than double. So very strong growth. We looked at the growth numbers before. All countries in Southeast Asia are growing above. We see a very strong growth potential. If we look at China, which is interesting, we already see a very strong reduction that is anticipated by 2035. So we'll go down from currently more than 900 million tons to around 650 million tons. So we see a reduction in China. We see a paradigm shift in China, which is from quantity to quality, as they call it. And that actually is also interesting because quality is most often more expensive than quality. We believe that steel prices, driven by many factors, will go higher. One of it is China's move from quantity to quality. So that is, in a way, an opportunity with higher steel prices to look at new investments. And then we see other factors. Decarbonization costs a lot of money. As CBAM, and we see at what's happening in Europe. Europe, so we believe that steel prices will go up in the next 10 to 15 years. If we look at another phenomenon, of course, and I spoke about this a lot, more than 7% of emissions in the world are from iron and steel, and that's a massive amount. I think people and consumers are only starting to realize that the iron and steel industry is the heaviest polluter among all industries. And of course, that is a challenge for the steel industry, but it's also an opportunity because consumers start to develop a willingness to pay a little bit more attention to everything that is made of steel. So there is a premium potential that we're seeing that is arising, especially in automotive home appliances, where customers are willing to pay more for a decarbonized or green steel. If we don't address, and this is a brilliant slide, with the permission of Vivian, I just showed it again. If we look at what's happening in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of new projects in the pipeline, but if we do all these projects, and we believe that there's an opportunity to do something else than carbon dioxide emissions in the form of blast furnace projects. Because if we downstream, what's happening downstream is a lot of our customers, or steel customers, have set clear goals to reduce CO2 emissions over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So if we look at the car industry, for example, there are some very, very ambitious targets. For example, General Motors wants to be carbon neutral in Scope 3, which means their supply chain by 2030. I honestly don't really know where that green steel shall come from. These are ambitious targets, but it shows that big companies, also under the pressure, of course, of regulators and authorities, and of course that brings us now to, let's say, the question, how will green steel demand evolve? So it will be a huge opportunity from a business perspective, but also a huge necessity from what we want to do has to be sustainable, but also economically and commercially sustainable. So just going into green steel for ecological reasons will not make sense because the company will not survive. If we go to our vision, and perhaps we look at the yellow text. So our vision is to develop one of the first green steel plants in Southeast Asia and apply a gradual, flexible approach based on partnerships. That's very important. It has to be gradual and it has to be flexible. And it has to be based on partnerships. So we cannot go from 100 to 0 in one step. We need to take it one step at a time. And we want to strengthen Thailand's flat steel market by complementing the domestic market offer and decreasing imports. So we are not trying to replace domestic offers, we are trying to substitute imports. So our product focus will be on import substitution. So we are trying, or we're planning to build a 2 million ton integrated flat steel plant with a required to power the steel plant. It will not be a direct, it will be a third party access, and I will talk about this in a minute. The challenges. Secondly, green steel projects are tremendously complex because they're not just steel projects, they're also energy projects. We need so much energy for green steel that we have actually several projects in one project. Thirdly, supply security. We mentioned this already. The availability of high-grade iron ore pellets is limited. $4 per ton more. So we need to take it one step at a time. So our approach is gradual transition. So what you see here is on the left is the CO2 emissions for blast furnace-based steelmaking, around 2,300 kilos of CO2 per ton of steel. Next to it is DRI, direct reduction, with natural gas and EAF. So per ton of steel with DRI plus EAF, the emissions from the electric arc furnace down, plus we will use green hydrogen in the DRI process, 20%, and by doing that we will get to already 600, slightly less than 600 kilograms of CO2 per ton of steel. So that's 2028. And then we will take it by steps. 2032, we go up to 50% reduction. 2036, 70%. 2040, 90%. The Energyron technology from Langendorf sets a max of 90% green hydrogen. by then you will be at less than 150 kilos of steel. So we want to take a gradual approach, firstly for cost reasons, but also because of technology reasons. As it was said, we don't know yet where exactly the technology will go. So we want to not put all eggs into one basket. So we want to take it step by step, and that's absolutely critical for us. Challenge 2, the complexity. A steel project and a renewable energy project. So at Meranti, we are all from steel background. We are not renewable experts. So we are dealing that steel projects and renewable projects have very different characteristics. And in order to address that, what we want to do is to have two separate projects. One is a project that is solar and renewables. One is a steel plant. They're in different locations. So we have an off-site generation of renewables, and the renewable project will sell electricity into the grid. And the steel plant will buy electricity from the grid. What is critical, and we mentioned, is third-party access. We can only do this if we have third-party access, which means we have an entity that is a renewable entity that produces electricity, sells into the grid, and the steel plant buys from the grid. If we have that, it is not only a environmentally sustainable project, it's also commercially sustainable. Because the cost of renewable generation is so much lower than fossils. So the levelized cost of energy from renewables is only 5 to 6 US dollar cents. So if we look at renewables, they actually are very cost competitive. The challenge is to balance the grid. So we cannot have a grid with only renewables, it needs to be a mix. And the challenge is we need to have the regulation in place to allow for third party. But if we have third-party access, it's absolutely possible. And in order to make that happen, and we can't do this alone, we have partnered with GPSC. Kumbichitra from GPSC is here today. I'm very happy about this partnership because GPSC is focusing on renewables. GPSC has the expertise in renewables, and GPSC is covering that side. Electrolysis, we can't do ourselves either. And we do this with Bank of Industrial Gas. We are here with the Kongsaka here today, and I'm also very happy that they have joined us here. So BIG will cover everything that has to do with hydrogen production. So Meranti will do steel, BIG will do green hydrogen, GPSC will do renewables. And only in this partnership setting, we believe, is it possible to put in place a green steel project. And this is, without going into too much detail, a kind of a picture of how we are organizing this project. So renewable energy off-site, and it will not just be one solar farm, it will be several solar farms, and it will be operated and managed by GPSC. Green hydrogen will be on-site, it will be right next to the steel site, because the hydrogen cannot be too far away from the direct production. That will be operated by BIG. And then we have green steel right next to the electrolysis plant and the hydrogen project. And then we have two normal supply structures. So potentially we will have some green hydrogen coming from cracking. So there's two ways of making hydrogen. Either we do electrolysis, we make it basically with water, we split water into hydrogen and oxygen on the ground. Or we bring it in the form of ammonia, which means the hydrogen has been created somewhere else, where it's cheaper to make hydrogen. It is then transformed into ammonia, and it will then be cracked. So we have two options in our projects to do either electrolysis, hydrogen production ourselves, or we crack ammonia. So these are two technically different options, commercially different. We want to try both, and we're looking at both because we don't know where the technology goes. The ammonia could come from Saudi Arabia, where electricity is extremely cheap, so hydrogen production is very cheap in Saudi Arabia. But we also wanted to have electrolysis in Thailand because solar efficiency in Thailand is actually very high. So we believe Thailand has fantastic conditions for renewable energy. So it is possible. Number 3, raw materials. The third one is supply security. and it was mentioned, pellets are limited. We see a very strong push for decarbonization in steelmaking internationally. High-grade iron ore pellets are limited in supply. So we follow a 2+1 strategy for securing high-grade iron ore pellets, partner with 2 mining companies and 1 commodity trader, or with 2 commodity traders and 1 miner. So far we have signed an MOU or partnership with 1 mining company. We're about to sign a partnership with a commodity trader in the next 2 weeks, and we will announce both partnerships in the next 4 weeks. So we're currently in discussions to see who will be our third partner for commodities, and that's important. We're talking about long-term supply of iron ore pellets into the plant, so 20 years to make sure that we have supply security. Fourth, equipment. Equipment is limited, and equipment makers actually have skill for direct production. So it was important for us to get into that process, into the queue. So very early, we have decided to partner with Danieli. And Danieli not only has a world-class technology, which is called Energyron, Danieli also has a fantastic workshop in Thailand, in Rayong. So this is, for us, a fantastic partnership. So we're already working with Danieli on the pre-engineering. On the right side, you see the plant layout. So we have a site. We have not yet announced it. We're in the process of formalizing. But this is how the plant will look like. Right next to that site will be the electrolysis site that will be run by EIG. And then together we can actually do green steel, not fully green, but less than 600 kilos of CO2. Fifth, that's of course the biggest challenge, I think, in bringing it all together. So we need the ecosystem. We are engaging with a wide range of stakeholders. So we are talking to the BOI group, so with our BOI application. We're starting to talk with ONET, TEA. We need to have an ecosystem approach that benefits for Thailand, so we believe these efforts are worth it. Firstly, we can close the domestic supply and demand. We can open a path to sustainable steelmaking, and this could serve as a role model not just for steel, but also for other heavy industrial projects. We will create up to 1,500 direct jobs in the steel business, up to 10,000 jobs during construction, 10,000 indirect jobs. Significant upskilling. There is no iron making at the moment in Thailand. There's steel making, but there's no iron making, so there's opportunities for upskilling. We are also looking at digital solutions. And I found it very interesting to see the presentation by Moscow with the QR codes and the tracking system of carbon footprint per coil and per steel product. So we're thinking something similar where customers can actually see how much carbon dioxide is sitting in this coil of cotton. And then we're creating self-sufficiency and support Thailand's trade balance through import substitution and exports. I think if COVID has shown one thing, COVID has shown many things, but one thing is self-sufficiency is important. I think it's not good if we have too much dependency on imports. There will always be imports, but I think having self-sufficiency is a good thing. So our green steel project, we believe, has the potential to become one of Thailand's industrial flagship projects, and we're really inviting everyone to join forces, and that's why this opportunity for us today is so meaningful. Very briefly, the timeline, it's just very short. So we are only in the middle of pre-engineering. We do engineering in 2024, 2025, 26, 27 is the construction. Production start 2028, so it's still far out. It shows that the steel projects can take a long time, but it shows also that we still have opportunity, to put infrastructure in this. For example, the renewables take time, the electrolysis takes time, so we do have the time. We are early on in the process, and we then want to reach 2028. So I would like to end here and thank everybody for your attention.